city. I work in city planning, and I agree with everything you say, and I think that there's a lot of pressure on planning departments. Well, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? And I think there is an unknown where it really is left in the hands of the politicians. There was a theorist in the early 80s called Kingdon's multiple streams. So it's essentially when the stars align. If there's a problem, we have problems. We've got housing, we've got climate problems. Are there policy interventions? Yeah, there's policy tools to fix these. But if there's not the political will, if there's the political will to implement the policies to solve the problems, that's when these things happen. So pushing the city to, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do that? We know those options, those tools are available. It's exactly what you're saying, Franz, is if the political will is there. And I think planning has been vilified. We either glorify that we're behind the curtains with big drafting boards and thinking with ashtrays about what our city's gonna be. That's not what we do anymore. And there's a housing crisis, there's a climate crisis, there's also a planning crisis. We are struggling at the City of Stratford to get planners. I'm telling you right now, we're not getting them. So we have official plan review on the go right now. It's no news, it's not going very well because there's no hands on deck to get it done. And if we get it done the way it's been budgeted, planned, it's not really what, personally, I'm in a position to determine what we need as a city in that regard. How it's going is not what we need. It's got to be something different, and we see knee-jerk reactions right now with what's happening we are using things like tariffs and crisis to justify that we don't need resources to help us with a great official plan. In fact, we need less planners. We need less official plans. We need less red tape. I don't know if. I can't agree with that, but you know what? I'm employed by political masters. I've got to listen to what they say and do what they tell me to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question for you then. When you say political will, what do you mean? Like, what do we need? Do we need to elect different people?
Let me address that. So here's the thing. I put my political science hat on. Government is a tool. It's an incredibly powerful tool that was invented tens of thousands of years ago to figure out how to get large groups of people to work together. You needed some institution that would kind of make the rules and ensure that they were enforced, right, and they were followed, right. In the last 200 years, thankfully, from my perspective, we've realized that who defines what government looks like, who has power to make the rules and to enforce them, shouldn't be left to those who are rich and powerful. It should be decided by people through democratic processes, through elections. And we have now 200 years of experimenting with this new way of doing it. There are a lot of hiccups involved in democratic governance. It hasn't worked out in many ways. We're still, to be blunt, 200 years is like that in human history, right? But we're learning how to do that. We also have a lot of very powerful interests right now who are telling us government is a waste of time, it wastes money, you can't trust people in government, blah, blah, blah. And they're trying to convince people to kind of just don't use the tool. Watch your cat videos on YouTube and whatever, right? We have to reclaim government. We have to talk to people, we have to organize them and say, no, we have the right to use these institutions to get done what we want done. I don't always agree with the decisions that majority people made. I don't agree with the decision that they made in the United States, but I respect it. That's what happens. And if we want to help, I'm sorry, I forget your name, Adam. If we want to help Adam do the right thing, which I think he wants to do, you have to make sure that the right counselors are elected who are going to say, we want you to do this. That's the only way it's going to happen.
And in between, show up and speak for density.
Yeah.
Ian?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and that political will doesn't just go to our politicians; it goes to your neighbors, your family, your friends, and making sure. We had record low turnout in the last provincial election. Get out the vote, get people out, drive your neighbors, drive your family, whatever it takes, insist on getting them out to vote, because, you know, Ford was elected a majority government with less than 18% of the voters actually voting for him. Like, it's a joke. We've got to get people to recognize that this is a privilege, and they need to take it upon themselves to vote for these things that are really important. And you telling them what's important will help them to decide. You looking at political parties' positions on things and their platforms on housing and where they stand will help also for you to tell them which parties are the ones to vote for. I'm biased, but
Yeah, and
but
just
there are
on
some
that
good
note,
good points out there.
I mean, building political